Welcome back to Seavine International News Network. I'm Linda Forsythe.
And I'm Leonard Bacani.
And today we're going to be going over part 4 of our Gitmo rumor squashing series. And the title for today's episode is The Deep State versus Judge Kavanaugh.
We're going to actually go over an article that I wrote last year, end of September. And I've asked Linda to read this because she's a much smoother reader than I am, and she's bossy.
That was in response to one of your comments. Well, before I go over and read this, since I'm bossy, I am going to briefly go over something that, just to clear something up. Seavine News is not a business. It is literally a movement of we the people.
That's right.
So it is not something that Leonard and I just created in order to be a money-making scheme and etc. Seavine has been put into a charitable trust for we the people. Nobody in this movement receives any revenue or funds of any way, shape, or type or form as it stands right now, until we get larger and we actually have to maybe hire on 1 or 2 people to help keep the foundation and etc. Running, because it does take a lot of time and effort. But in order for us to be able to go to places like Gitmo or to see the military tribunals on any of the military bases and to bring you a lot of these things, we have got hundreds of volunteers all over the place that are helping us put things together. And then plus there's overhead expenses. So we are requesting that if you feel this is worth something that you could donate to, we do have a donate button on our cvine.com website. That's c-vine.com. And at the top in the taskbar, there is a donation button. We would be very grateful if you would find it in your heart to be able to help us with some of our expenses we are incurring, especially since the massive growth. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start reading this. Now, the Gitmo rumor squashing part 4 of 4, the Deep State versus Judge Kavanaugh, there have been so many people that are, quite frankly, upset. Why are there over 90,000 sealed indictments and nothing's happening with them? Why are these people that you're pretty darn certain are guilty of a number of different things, including treason, still walking around? You know, nothing's being done, and people are just, quite frankly, fed up. Well, when Leonard wrote this report back last year, 2018, the end of September, he was actually covering the preliminary hearings of Judge Kavanaugh when everything was going crazy. And so I watched him. He was like, for a couple of weeks, he was doing all sorts of investigation and putting everything together for this report. And the purpose was to show exactly why the deep state and or the criminal left, or whatever you want to put it, the cabal, in this case utilizing the Democrats, were just going crazy trying to prevent the appointment of Kavanaugh as SCOTUS. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading. All right. This is actually, we added the update on our website, and it says, now that Judge Kavanaugh has been appointed as SCOTUS, will he be instrumental in taking down the deep state and sending them to Gitmo? That is a major question. All right, now there's a notation here, and I'm just going to read over it. This report by Leonard Bacani was originally written during the preliminary Senate Judiciary Committee hearing and before the appointment of Judge Kavanaugh as SCOTUS. It was created and researched at that time to provide facts as to why the criminal left was fighting the Kavanaugh appointment as hard as they were. In other words, there's a hint here. The deep state knew what it was going to mean. The Seavine report provides source for you to fact check and should give you a great deal of hope as to what will happen with all these sealed indictments. The appointment of Judge Kavanaugh as SCOTUS was the tipping point, as there now will be no escaping the fate of Gitmo. Okay, a detailed investigative report. Have you ever wondered why certain Democrats are viciously fighting with what appears to be their very last breath to eliminate Judge Kavanaugh's SCOTUS nominee? The obvious display of the far-left panic and desperation has become increasingly obvious to all. It was hard for most of us to watch, as nothing appeared to be off the table to fight for their pure liberal agenda, even to the point of attempting to destroy the Honorable Judge Brett Kavanaugh's reputation and good name, all of which his entire history had been closely scrutinized by the FBI in 6 separate background checks, all turned up with no evidence of misconduct. The circus train of loud, disruptive protesters, later discovered to be paid protesters, were escorted out in regular succession as the confirmation hearing progressed, with a questioning throughout the day with the Senate Judiciary Committee. The entire travesty of events is a sad commentary on how deep the Democratic Party has sunk. The Supreme Court of the United States was first formed and held in 1789. And in all of the 229 years of its American history, never has there been such a vitriolic display of chaos in the approval process of a nominated judge for the SCOTUS. Why had the Democrats mobilized so heavily against this nominee? Was the punishing question and chaos from the liberal left really because Judge Kavanaugh's endorsement of presidential immunity? Or maybe was it his opposition to abortion, as was alleged? Or was it his belief in originalism? This is a viewpoint, originalism is a viewpoint that outlines how the constitutional provision means the same thing today as it did when it was first adopted. The only way its meaning can be changed is through a constitutional amendment. In other words, the Honorable Judge Kavanaugh believes in holding up to the same Constitution of the United States our founding fathers built this country on. Why would that be a problem to the Democrats? Well, because all those who have attempted a coup to overthrow our country, its laws, our constitutionality, and constitutionally elected POTUS, and the actual U.S. Constitution itself will be headed to Gitmo. Understand, I do not say that lightly, meaning that's what Leonard's saying, without having evidence to back it up. I have conducted a great deal of investigation into this entire scenario for you and present my findings for your close scrutiny. It will be in your best interest to take the time and study this, because when you personally review all the data discovery, it will take away any suspicion of fake news. I've done the footwork. All you have to do is make a final determination as to its veracity. Be aware that this research was done by utilizing my 14 years as a field investigator and first responding investigator to crime scenes when formerly with the Santa Ana Police Department, and another 18 years as a licensed private investigator and founder of Homeland Security Services, which is a private investigation, private security firm, and state-authorized training facility. I tell you my background so you can ascertain I am not a novice. Now, the steps to evidentiary discovery and scrutiny are as follows. Step 1. Watch Senator Graham's questioning of Judge Kavanaugh regarding enemy combatants and military tribunals, signaling for things to come. Now, in this report that we have on cvine.com, when you want to read this, we have all of the links to everything that we're talking about here. So it would be in your best interest to be able to go to the website and get onto this article so you can click on the links as you read through it. So there is a YouTube video there for you to click on and watch. Now, the background education as to this piece of evidence, in other words, this YouTube video, there's a body of law called criminal law, which pertains to all the citizens of the U.S. From an American citizen's point of view, your constitutional rights follow you, even if you travel outside of the U.S. The Fourth Amendment was created to protect you from your own government, even if you travel outside the U.S. There is a long-standing history in our country of constitutional rights that follow the American citizen wherever they may go. But that doesn't give our constitutional right to turn on your government and collaborate with an enemy of our nation. In other words, this country was created of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is owned and run by we, the people of the United States of America, not the government or any other separate entity, person, or group. If you do turn on your country and to the inherent laws put into place by its owners, you then become an enemy combatant. Are you beginning to receive a slight hint on why certain people may vehemently fight by all means necessary to stop the Honorable Judge Brett Kavanaugh from a SCOTUS appointment? This judge staunchly stands by our Constitution and knows it was put in place to protect all citizens of America from enemies, both foreign and domestic. In that case, it would be a very serious problem for those who could be found guilty as an enemy combatant, when our American Constitution would be upheld and kept in place by a SCOTUS who adheres honestly and impartially to the rules. For the enemy combatant of the U.S., there's a body of law called the Law of Armed Conflict. And enemy combatants are tried in military courts called military tribunals, located in Gitmo. Why is that a significant point? The United States has been operating under a state of declared war since September 2001, following the 9/11 attacks, war on terrorism. 3 days later, on September 14th in 2001, Congress passed the authorization on the use of force, which is still in effect today. In other words, we are currently at war. Step 2, review the authorization explanation, and there is a link there for you to be able to click on, to be able to understand completely what that says. Step 3, the United States has been operating under a declared state of national emergency signed by President Trump on December 20th, 2017. Review this executive order, and the link is there. Okay, it's White House Presidential Actions Executive Order blocking property persons involved in serious human rights abuse, corruption. This particular executive order should be pretty enlightening to you. Take the time to look it over. Going on to step 4, background information for precedents. The United States Supreme Court cases have upheld the use of tribunals during wartime. In the U.S. Supreme Court, Johnson versus Eisentrager, 339 U.S. 763 in 1950. This case was a major decision of the U.S. Supreme Court. It decided that the U.S. courts had no jurisdiction over German war criminals held in a U.S.-administered prison in Germany. American citizens who collaborated with Nazi saboteurs were considered enemy combatants and tried in the military courts called military tribunals. Some were executed. In addition, the United States Supreme Court, Hamdi versus Rumsfeld, 542 U.S. 507, the court recognized the power of the U.S. government to detain enemy combatants, including U.S. citizens, but ruled that detainees who were U.S. citizens must have the rights of due process and the ability to challenge their enemy combatant status before an impartial authority. Again, think Gitmo. So to be clear, Americans who collaborate with the enemy, a classification called treason, are considered enemy combatants. The Founding Fathers of America defined treason as follows. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. How many cabal deep state politicians can you think of that may have committed these acts of treason? In the near future, mark my words, we will see justice for those treasonous acts against our home and our persons. Today, we can also ask our very own Q, who defines treason as follows. The offense of attempting by overt acts to overthrow the government of the state to which the offender owes allegiance to, or to kill, or personally injure the sovereign, or the sovereign's family. As a side note, I personally investigated all aspects of Q, data findings, suggestions, allegations, and have found Q amazingly credible. I would be the first person to warn you if I thought Q was a LARP. Step 5. Read a very detailed article by Mike Adams. I agree with just about everything he said in it, except for the parts about President Trump serving only one term and AG Sessions being fired. So this is the article from Mike Adams that Leonard added. This is a National Emergency Special Report by Mike Adams. As the documents cited here clearly show, President Trump is planning to carry out mass arrests of deep state traitors, including Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, James Comey, and even Barack Obama. This is fully covered within the accompanying documentation from a U.S. Federal Register in the links and video below. This author is fully supportive of this effort to save America and arrest the traitors. The confirmation of Kavanaugh to the U.S. Supreme Court is the key to getting this done in a timely manner, which explains why the deranged left is going to such outrageous extremes to fabricate false allegations against Kavanaugh and stage coordinated, well-funded protests to try to block the U.S. Senate from confirming him. Once Kavanaugh is on the court, it will add the necessary support for constitutional emergency powers that concentrate power in the executive branch of government, currently headed by President Trump, during times of war and national emergencies. Fact: the United States has been operating under a state of declared war since September of 2001, following the 9/11 attacks. Fact: the United States has been operating under a declared national emergency signed by President Trump since December 20th, 2017. See proof of document below. In this detailed video analysis, I lay out the evidence for President Trump's plan to issue mass arrest of deep state traitors, then try them for treason under military tribunals. This is justified and lawful because the acts being committed against the United States of America by deep state traitors are acts of treason during a time of declared war. It is no coincidence that President Trump has deliberately funded the U.S. Pentagon with its most massive budget ever conceived. This is because the Pentagon has agreed to run the military arrest of deep state traitors under the direction of the Commander-in-Chief, President Trump. President Trump, I believe, has decided to go to bat for America and utterly destroy the anti-American deep state crime ring that has been working for years to destroy this nation and end its national sovereignty. This will be Trump's legacy. He may not even run for re-election after 2020. That's where Leonard and I both disagree. Since his entire plan to arrest the traitors and restore the rule of law in America will require him to step aside once certain goals are accomplished. See detailed explanation below. Note that in order to accomplish this, President Trump will need to declare temporary martial law. Update. See clarification about martial law in the video appended to the end of this article. He will need our support during this time to maintain order and civility across the nation as the arrests and trials of deep state traitors are underway. We should all expect mass violence and chaos from the left, which is closely following the guidebook called The Rules for Radicals, written by Saul Alinsky. If any of you have not read that or looked it over, I highly recommend you do so. Again, the book is called The Rules for Radicals, written by Saul Alinsky. Everything that you have been seeing by the left and what's been going on with the chaos has been following this rule book to the letter. Alinsky wrote his book as a blueprint for communist revolts and violent overthrow attempts of governments. Note in the dedication section placed at the front, Alinsky dedicates his book to Satan with the following words: dedicated to Lucifer, the original radical who gained his own kingdom. Also, Hillary Clinton is a staunch admirer of his, calling him one of her heroes and a mentor. In fact, she wrote her senior thesis about Saul Alinsky when she was in college. Barack Obama is also an admirer. There is a written piece called Barack Obama's Rules for Revolution, the Alinsky model. In addition, there's a quote under the title that says, "We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America." Signed, Barack Obama, election eve, 2008. Okay, so see the documents for yourself. This is all posted on the U.S. Federal Register, and we have the link there for you. Following are the corroborative data to the source documents cited in this comprehensive video. Document 1, Executive Order 13818, signed December 20th, 2017, is blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. This document specifically describes the crimes of Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, James Comey, and Robert Mueller under the corruption section, alluding to the Uranium One scandal and Obama's multi-billion-dollar laundering operation that handed nuclear weapons capabilities to Iran. It says that the executive order targets any foreign person determined by the Secretary of the Treasury in consultation with the Secretary of State and the Attorney General to be a current or formal government official or a person acting for or on behalf of such an official who is responsible for or complicit in or has directly or indirectly engaged in corruption, including the misappropriation of state assets, the expropriation of private assets for personal gain, corruption related to government contracts, or the extraction of natural resources or bribery. This describes precisely what Clinton, Comey, Mueller, Obama, Brennan, McCabe, and others carried out under the Obama regime. These are more than just felony federal crimes. They are acts of treason against the United States of America carried out during a time of declared war. From that document, you will find President Trump's declared national emergency. It says in part, "I therefore determine that serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States, and I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat." Document number 2, Executive Order 1361B, signed July 6, 2012 by President Obama. Assignment of national security and emergency preparedness communications functions. Interesting. This executive order grants the president absolute control over all the U.S. media, including internet tech giants, social media, news networks, and news websites. It specifically names communications that support continuity of government, federal, state, local, territorial, and tribal emergency preparedness and response communications, non-military executive branch communication systems, critical infrastructure, protection networks, and non-military communication networks, particularly with respect to prioritization and restoration. That last executive order should be quite the eye-opener for you, considering how events have transpired in social media and mainstream media. But moving on. Document number 3, Executive Order 13825, signed March 1st, 2018. 2018 amendments to the Manual for Courts-Martial, United States. Although much more difficult to read, I will encapsulate it here. This document essentially establishes the preservation of the government's right to prosecute crimes of treason and deep state collusion against America, all of which may be prosecuted by way of military tribunals under existing U.S. law. This would allow deep state traitors to be arrested by military police and subjected to military trials run by the Pentagon, completely bypassing the corrupt court system, which has been deliberately stacked with complicit deep state traitors and resistant judges. To accomplish this, President Trump must announce temporary martial law. For the record, I personally wholly support this effort to arrest and prosecute the thousands of deep state traitors who have become a cancer upon America. Were you aware that James Comey is a communist? John Brennan, of course, has remained a communist for his entire adult life, and Barack Obama was a radical Muslim who despised America and worked every day to undermine it through a variety of nefarious means, including allowing the U.S. military encryption technology to be captured by Iran by way of U.S. drone GPS spoofing incident. For starters, Barack Obama personally authorized the illegal Spygate, spying on Trump campaign officials. Barack Obama also allowed China to hack 21 million U.S. military personnel records, effectively dumping the entire U.S. Pentagon database into the hands of Communist China. Step 6. For a full detailed explanation of Obama's treasonous crimes against America, watch this extremely important video from Real Video. It has been banned from YouTube for obvious reasons. The link to that video is there. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, John Brennan, Andrew McCabe, Loretta Lynch, Peter Strzok, and a long list of other traitors have all been conspiring for years to destroy America from within and see it replaced with a communist regime run by authoritarian globalists that ultimately serve an international elite few. Hence what we call the shadow government. The shadow government or cabal is not a government that is for the people or the American people. It is a government formed to enslave the people, not just here in the United States, but globally. For now, let's keep our focus on how America is being affected. Tech giants like Apple, Google, and Facebook are also part of the plan, which is exactly why you've seen every one of them working closely with China to roll out authoritarian techno-tyranny infrastructure systems that plan to enslave every citizen of the world, making them powerless and obedient to a globalist technocracy that runs the one world government. But something upset the proverbial apple cart and stopped it dead in its tracks. Trump's plan to rescue America from the globalist. In order to halt this global dictatorship and defend America against traitors who are working to destroy it, President Trump must carry out the following actions. Number 1, achieve the release of the declassified, unredacted, deep state documents from within the FBI and DOJ that will reveal the full extent of deep state treason against America. The FBI and DOJ are currently stalling this effort, furthering their treason against America and proving they have a lot to hide. Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, and Warner have already committed acts of treason in calling on the FBI and DOJ to defy this presidential order. Number 2, invoke the national emergency powers, which are all constitutionally granted to the executive branch of government. Technically, this has already happened in 2017. Number 3, invoke Presidential Obama's Executive Order 13618 and seize control of Google, Facebook, CNN, Washington Post, and the New York Times to halt the treasonous lies, coordinated election fraud, and political coup attempt which is being run by all these traitors of America. Number 4, use all controlled communications channels to publicly declare the details of the crimes and criminal actions or actors which have been committed against the America, disclose everything to the American people about how their country has been overrun and destroyed from within. Number 5, order military police to find and arrest thousands of deep state traitors who have been deliberately undermining America from within. This will include hundreds of people inside the FBI and DOJ, plus hundreds more in the State Department and other agencies. Arrests must also include traitorous, corrupt federal judges who have deliberately undermined America, for example, blocking Trump's constitutional travel ban to protect America from enemy terrorists. Many traitors will attempt to flee the country, of course, and they'll need to be located and brought to justice like former Nazi war criminals. Number 6, issue an executive order demanding national voter ID for all future elections. No longer will America tolerate democracy being stolen by the votes of illegals or granted voting rights by California and other complicit anti-America states or cities. Number 7, suspend elections during the military tribunals, but also lay out timelines for restoration of elections and nationwide voting with voter ID in place to restore the rule of law and give America back to the American people. Number 8, deploy the U.S. military along the southern border, use of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to build the wall. Number 9, promise to resign the presidency once the rule of law is restored in America, signaling to the American people that Trump plans to hand over power to the next elected president within a reasonable time. Americans will rightly be concerned about martial law morphing into military dictatorship. Trump needs to assure the American people that his job is to destroy the deep state, restore the rule of law, then get out of the way and retire as the greatest U.S. president in history, the president who saved America from traitors and communists. Again, Leonard and I, this assertion from Mike, who wrote this article, we're not so sure about that one, but we'll see. The American people will not tolerate a permanent military dictatorship in America, but they will tolerate temporary martial law needed to drain the swamp, arrest the traitors, and restore the rule of law. During this time, by the way, the FBI likely needs to be disbanded and rebuilt from scratch. The agency's credibility has been utterly destroyed by actions of James Comey, Peter Strzok, and others. Watch the full video explaining all this in detail, and it's at Real Video, and there is the link right there. Now, the next goes into a bonus round, which I'm not going to go over today. I strongly recommend that you go ahead and read this article because it gives you much more information about what to expect in what is going to be coming. But the bottom line about this article that Leonard wrote is prosecution is coming. Military tribunals are coming. Those 90,000 plus sealed indictments are about ready to be opened. And I know you've heard that over and over again. But if you have any doubt after reading exactly what went on with the endorsement and or the appointment of Judge Kavanaugh as Supreme Court Justice of the United States, then you need to understand, read the upper part again, because he follows the Constitution closely. This is exactly why the deep state or the Democratic Party was going absolutely nuts, doing everything they could in order to be able to prevent him from being appointed, because he was the tipping point of what can adhere to the rule of law and to the U.S. Constitution. Okay, I babbled on enough. Leonard, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this article. We ask that if you want more information and you want to follow us on our Facebook group page at CVine International News Network. We also have a Twitter that we just put up not too long ago. It's at CVine News. There's no hyphen, just CVine News. And also follow us on YouTube.
Well, not only on YouTube, but we have, due to the request of a number of you that are not Facebook aficionados, we have set up a forum specifically on the cvine.com website, c-vine.com. Now, if you go there, we also have multiple forums set up for different countries. This is internationally. And so you can go there to discuss, debate, just maybe bring up concerns. You can go ahead and post various news articles. It's pretty much what's going on in on the Facebook group page where people are talking. But you may want to go ahead and sign up to be able to post in this forum, because if for any reason our pages are taken down off of social media Or, as you read here, different things can happen if all of social media goes down. C-Vine.com, cvine.com is your port in the storm. It's where you can continue discussion with each other and know what's going on and, the cooperation and the talk. So even if you aren't going to be regularly posting, I strongly recommend you at least become a member. So if things hit the fan, you have someplace to go.
We take this very seriously. If you follow Q posts, he suggests that we're pretty close to that time where all of social media will be shut down. So, and social media is trying to shut down all the major players now that are promoting this movement, this Great Awakening movement. So it could be a matter of time where we're shut down. So in the event that happens, we created this platform, c-vine.com, where we can share information, and people with like-minded people from all around the world can share their views and share the news of what's going on. Because this is a grassroots movement. This is by the people. And it's not just limited to the United States, it's all around the world. This is the Great Awakening movement.
And we're all joining together and pooling our resources. This is what is so cool about this. You can't see him here, but we have one gentleman that has agreed to help us with these videotapings because, quite frankly, we suck at it. And so
That's Greg Kelly?
Yes, Greg Kelly of Kelly Brothers, has his own business, and he's donating his time here in order to be able to help us to do this, along with many other people, along with IT people, helping with the website and graphic designers. We've got attorneys and private investigators and just regular everyday people all chipping in, working together to be able to bring the news to you and to, for the most part, vet what's going on. And we are being really tough. We're being really strict about trolls. We're not going to allow it. Not going to allow it. And maybe in some cases we're a little bit too rambunctious about it. But if anybody is disruptive or doing anything to tear down whatever is going on, this is a safe space in the storm where there's true factual news with information that can be fact-checked, and then from there we bring it to you, the people. We're going to be bringing additional individuals on to go with us over to the military tribunals and watch those if some of you would like to see that. We're going to be bringing on, in fact, we're going to desperately need additional citizen journalists, because you know what? I don't know what you think, but I think mainstream media is probably going to be toast. And then those indictments are opened up, things are going to hit the fan. And there's going to be military tribunals all over the place. We're going to need just regular, everyday people that are well-spoken to be able to get out there and report the news to you, the people that you know is factual. And we're doing this all through C-Vine.
That's right. President Trump says mainstream media is the enemy of the people. And Q says, you are the news. Linda, did you know you are the news?
Or I'm you are the news. Actually,
we are the news.
We
are the news. It's our obligation as patriots to spread that news, and that's our goal. That's why we established this grassroots movement. We may not be sophisticated. We're filming here from my dining room. We don't have professional staff and equipment to the extent that the mainstream media has, but
obviously
this is a grassroots movement, and it's our goal to share the truth with you.
And we need more volunteers, please. If you would like to help us in vetting new members and or keeping a watch on comments and or postings, just keeping an eye on everything. It's growing so fast, it's almost impossible to keep up with, and to be able to continue with our promise to you to keep everything truthful, we are going to need more individuals to donate their time. And so we have an entire system up with that. I'm going to go ahead and end here this evening that this, as part 4 of 4, should put things to rest in your mind. But those indictments are going to be opening. Things are being put in place. And in fact, Q said just a couple of days ago, in 21 days, some big things are coming. There's March Madness.
Within 21 days, so it can happen any day.
Right. So probably going to happen sooner rather than later. So if you, last as we sign off, if you are willing to go and donate to this cause, to this grassroots movement in any way, even financially, we have the donation button on the c-find.com website. It says donations up in the taskbar. And please click on that, and we will see you next video.
Until next time.